I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember, bacon makes everything better.
Hi everybody, David Glenn here with the North Carolina Sports Network, coming at you today from UNC Wilmington, which you all know has a special place in my heart. I'm a guy who got married in Wilmington, North Carolina. I got engaged in Wilmington, North Carolina. I have been an adjunct professor at UNC Wilmington. But far more important than even my subjective personal connection to this great place is that it has been ranked among the top 100 public universities in the country. And we as sports fans have come to know the Seahawks as an outstanding program in the very popular sport of men's basketball. One of the best in our region in the very popular sport of college baseball. I know their swimming and diving program is one of the best in the entire region, among many others. And we are going to have multiple guests as we sit here ahead of UNC Wilmington hosting the Campbell Camels tonight, right here at Trask Coliseum, which, if you've seen it, has been wild in the student section and beyond all season. Takeo Siddle was my guest here on the David Glenn Show earlier this season. He's getting charged up for this Seahawks matchup against the Camels. And we will have 4 guests during the course of today's show, including the man to my right, Mike Oblinger, the relatively new athletic director here at UNC Wilmington. I'm very excited to get to know Mike better in these coming minutes. A little bit later, another guy you all know well, Mike Vaccaro, voice of the Seahawks, also part of the marketing team here, is going to drop by. Randy Hood, the leader of that brilliant baseball program I mentioned earlier. They have not only a season that is exciting and almost upon us, or I guess underway, they have some off-season plans for Brooks Field and the entire baseball facility. That is one more exciting thing to talk about. Also, a little bit later, it's going to be Nicole Woods. Just as Mike is relatively new to UNCW, he's actually a former college athlete himself. Coach Woods is relatively new to UNCW, and if I remember correctly, one of Mike's first hires here as the athletic director at UNC Wilmington. So, Mike, welcome to this David Glenn Show UNCW trip. Thanks for being with us today. How are you?
Great to be with you. I'm awesome. I'm great.
Well, tell us, you look at the world through the eyes of somebody who played college basketball.
Sure.
What was it that attracted you to UNC Wilmington as the AD after I know you have been around the block at UConn and Memphis and Nevada and other Division I universities?
Yeah. How much time do we got?
Plenty.
Because I could be up here really for the full hour talking about why this job made an awful lot of sense for us, and you referenced UConn, and I loved my job at UConn. I loved it, and obviously you see the success they've got going on. To be a part of that place was pretty special as the deputy. So it really had to be really a special opportunity for us personally and professionally. There's so many wonderful things going on here. This university has so much momentum to it right now. Quality of life to live in Wilmington.
Yes.
My folks are now, and in the Charlotte area, so we've got more family in this area. So that was obviously a reasoning. But I believed in what the chancellor had his vision, right? Chancellor Verletti's been here a little over a year, longer than I have been, and to hear how important athletics was to him, and it is important to him, it just really made me realize that this is an awesome opportunity that we've had to be a part of.
Seahawks fans know a lot about what you do here.
Yep.
We have a statewide and beyond audience. So let's start with the broad picture. You have 19 Division I sports.
We do.
I know you have shifted the athletic department a little bit. For example, I believe you're the only school in the Coastal Athletic Association that has a specific individual dedicated to name, image, likeness issues,
Correct.
Which is something a lot of fans are aware of. And you do. I might have left some things out. You guys won 5 CAA titles just this past academic year. What else can you share about that big picture as you, I know you like to run, you love the coast, you're near family, but you decided to bring your wife Liz, your daughter Quinn, your son Miles to this great city and this great state.
We're highly competitive. Obviously, we're here talking about basketball. We're here for basketball. We referenced baseball, 5 championships, which led the CAA, was an institutional record for us, and we have so many natural advantages within our league, within our peer group, within within our region. So we take advantage of that. Obviously we're sitting here early February. It was 65 degrees out, and we played tennis yesterday, right?
Nice.
Men did yesterday, and the women did today, and we start baseball here next week. And so we have a lot of advantages when it comes to weather, when it comes to climate. We're relatively on an island when it comes to, we're 2 hours to Raleigh, 3 hours to Charlotte. We kind of have this bubble to ourselves a little bit, where I think some people within the CAA don't necessarily enjoy that. They're in major metropolitan areas, maybe even in someone's backyard as it relates to a Power 5 institution. So, our success prior to me isn't by accident. Now it's my job to throw gas on it, to emphasize it. You mentioned NIL component. Obviously that landscape has changed a lot over the last 2.5, almost 3 years. I view NIL as a vital part of the student athlete experience, Dave, whether it's mental health, whether it's sports performance, sports medicine, nutrition, academic support, whatever it is. NIL is a huge component of that. We got to jump into it. When we hired Laura Pearson to steer that up for us, I believe she was the first. I think she still is the only. I do have said that out now. I've said that out loud now in front of my peers. I think that's going to be replicated within the league.
Yeah.
So ask me in a few months if she's still the only one in the league, and I doubt that. But it's a vital part of what we do, and we have to embrace it.
Roughly 10 years ago, and I've been around Wilmington and UNCW for decades, so this might make me sound old, but I've been following an evolution over 30 plus years now. And I know that about a decade ago, the Seahawk Club had roughly 1,000 members.
Yeah.
Now I know COVID messed with everybody's numbers,
Yep.
just because life stopped for a
sure.
while. But the last I saw, you were in the neighborhood of 2,500 plus, which
Yep.
from 1,000 to 2,500 plus in a decade is pretty amazing. What has happened that has allowed you to either energize the students, the community, the alumni, some combination of those things?
I think we've done a good job of telling our story and telling the need and the want. Whether it's giving to a scholarship, whether it's a facility project, whether it's giving to men's basketball, baseball, track, softball, whatever it may be, is, hey, we need support, right? There's a finite number of tickets we can sell. There's a finite number of sponsorships, marketing assets, but there's no cap on philanthropy, And I tell that to people all the time. I come up through fundraising, I come up through development, so it's very natural to me. But something that I think people have realized since I've been here, a little over a year, or a little under a year now, is I have no problem asking. And I think our community is getting energized by that, because we've got major facility needs, we've got major issues as it relates to just overall budgetary type things that we have to address. And if we communicate that and get out in the public and talk about the why, it's going to resonate with people, and we've already really started to see that.
Micah Oblinger is joining us here on the David Glenn Show on the North Carolina Sports Network. He was actually introduced as the new AD here at UNC Wilmington almost a year ago in February. I guess your official start date may have been April 1st, but he's been in the trenches for about a year now. You had mentioned on fundraising. I saw a term that I had not seen previously, where I assume this was one of your brain children, if that's a word. Is it the Champions Club?
Yeah.
Where if you donate a significant amount of money over a period of years,
Correct.
You are basically memorialized as part of the UNCW athletic surge. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we really wanted to reward, steward, and recognize people that went above and beyond, really what's required, right? And so we asked people to get involved with the Seahawk Club. You referenced that earlier, to buy tickets and do those types of things, make an annual fun gift. But the Champions Club for us is that Champions Circle is that next giving level, right? Someone who's going to pledge a dollar amount over 5 years, whether it's $25,000, $50,000, $100,000. We need to do something special to really wrap our arms around those people, thank them, explain exactly what we're doing. Again, this, a lot of times in fundraising, we're taking little ideas from everybody throughout the country. We're not unique. A lot of people have done a similar thing, but I've had experience with this in the past, and it was something that I thought for here made an awful lot of sense. And we announced it last month, and we have 11 already out the gate, so which is pretty exciting. So
wow,
so we're hitting the ground running. So
11 in 1 month, roughly.
Essentially, yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Again, it's called the Champions Circle, the official name. If anybody is interested, I have a feeling Mike would take your call. 350 student athletes, roughly.
Yep.
So that requires a lot of fundraising for a lot of different purposes. One example that we're going to talk with Coach Hood about a little bit later I came up the ranks as a baseball player.
Okay.
So when I read about the pretty intense detail, I know you worked with designers and architects. Tell us a little bit about that facility adjustment, because the Seahawks, of course, are in baseball season now. These renovations are going to be between this season and next season.
Correct. We'll begin really once we're done, and then hopefully that's into late June when we're done with Brooks Field. But you know, it didn't take really long for me to realize, Dave, when I got here, really kind of where we wanted to start. You know, and baseball for us, you know, has a great following, has a great donor base, and really the playing surface really is the only one. I think a lot of things need work here, and we'll get to that over time. But really, the playing surface for us was really the one that, I won't say dangerous, but in terms of like, hey, we get a little bit of rain, it's shut down for 48 hours, you know, and so playability was an issue, maintenance was an issue, cost was an issue. So after this year, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna replace the turf. Really, the playing surface is gonna get altered. We're gonna play the full turf. Dugouts will be redone. Outfield fence reconfigured a little bit. Our bullpens are real exposed right now, so we'll kind of tuck them in and put them into fencing. But ultimately, for our guys to come back in 25, it'll be a brand new playing surface.
Give us a sense of the importance of the relatively new deal with Under Armour.
Yeah.
It was funny because I've taught here, and some of my students had been involved with your men's basketball program. The coach donated kind of a UNCW basketball golf shirt. And then Coach Siddle made fun of me because I was still wearing the other one that, let's just say, is from a different
brand,
a different brand, not named Under Armour. So you guys got a 5-year deal.
Yep.
What goes into that? Because it just feels like UNC Athletics is a bigger brand now. And I saw some record number of contributions. I think 2023 was one of the biggest in the history of UNCW. It sounds like a lot of things are surging in the right direction.
Yeah, you know, I think we've got to be really intentional with who we partner with, right? Whether it's in the MMR space, whether it's the brand space, whether it's our apparel deal. That was done prior to my arrival, but you know, we're very proud to be a part of Under Armour. It's a huge company, huge brand. They've got, you know, all types of different athletes, all different types of student athletes, and universities that they're, you know, the transition from the previous brand to this was a little clunky, you know what I mean, as you would imagine, because we were with that previous brand for an awful long time, and so, you know, we're trying to get coaches, hey, empty out your closets, get that gear out of the way, because we've got new stuff for you, but we're much healthier than we were a year ago as we transitioned, and again, we're very, very proud to be an Under Armour institution.
Mike Oblinger is our guest. He is the athletic director here at UNC Wilmington. He was a college athlete himself. He played at Monmouth College in Illinois. He and his family, of course, now living here in the Wilmington area, as the Seahawks have a lot of work to do, but also a lot of great things to celebrate. We happen to be meeting on the day that the Seahawks are hosting the Campbell Camels. Now, prior to your arrival as AD, the Seahawks and the Camels did play each other a lot in a lot of sports, but now they're members of what I keep reminding myself to call the Coastal Athletic Association
Coastal,
after decades of habit calling it something else. How important is it that, in your eyes as a new guy, that you've gone from having one in-state rival in conference, Elon for a while now, to now 3 with North Carolina A&T, I think last year, and then Campbell, tonight's opponent this year. What does that do for the interest level, rivalries, or whatever else motivates fans?
Man, it is so cool. You know, Dave, I'm so glad that we have more institutions within our region. You know, and I think that's good for the league. I think that's good for those institutions that came in. I think it's wonderful for us. You know, obviously, we're very familiar with Campbell, very familiar with A&T as non-conference, but to have them, you know, a little over 2 hours away, you know, hour and a half, around 45, to play them more regularly and having that league, you know, I think we're going to have a little bit of a rivalry thing going on. I think we're going to have some creative ideas as it relates to marketing and think through some rivalry kind of things as we go along, but we have a great relationship with them. Obviously, they're strong in a lot of areas. I mean, baseball is one. Obviously, we're about to get into baseball season. I mean, their program is elite, been in multiple regionals, and so we're very familiar with them. We're happy that they're in the CAA. I think they're ecstatic to be in the CAA as well. But yeah, more people in our backyard that we can get in our league is fantastic.
Through the eyes of an athletic director, how would you put into words the importance of going to the number 12 team in the country at a famous place like Rupp Arena and winning the game on one of the national channels for all the world to see. I mean, that is not an everyday occurrence. I mean, it doesn't mean you show up at work the next day and you have $1 million donations on your desk. But how do you describe to fans out there what that means for branding or anything else that's important in your world?
Man, that's something I always remember.
Right.
You know, and it was fantastic. And, you know, to your point, to the question, that day, that 24 hours prior to that, so Saturday night when we get back into Sunday, our social media channels, including the university, right? So just the academic side of campus, saw 87 times more traffic, right? I mean, just clicks, whether it's social media, whether it's just video. I mean, it's a real thing for us. And we talk about in athletics the Kentucky effect, and we've used that because it's going to happen again, Dave. It's going to happen again where, you know, we're going to win a big ball game. We're going to get in the NCAA tournament. We're going to be where people, you know, go on Google and you know, UNCW, where is this? And they want to get more information. So we need to be ready. We need to be ready as it relates to that. And, you know, I was that last 4 or 5 minutes when it was real close. I mean, I was about as nervous as I think I've ever been. But special night for us, and you know, we've been riding the wave ever since.
A lot of former athletes say that they get more nervous. You're the athletic director. Obviously, you're there at Rupp Arena. You're hoping the Seahawks win. Is it accurate to say that you were more nervous as that AD watching those final minutes than maybe if you were on the line as a player shooting free throws? Because you can't control it, right?
Absolutely. I get real quiet, you know, during games, you know, and I was sitting with somebody that, again, doesn't really quite know that about me, and like, you know, we're talking, we're visiting. In the last 4 or 5 minutes, I probably didn't say a word, you know, and then he kind of noticed that, and he goes, "Man, you kind of get a little nervous as you get kind of tightened up, you know." And that's, I've been that way before here. I was that way at UConn. I was that way at LSU. That kind of once you get kind of into the final minutes of the ball game, it gets tight. I kind of get quiet and I stand. I tend to stand too when I get nervous. But I'm so glad that we got that done. And again, it's what a thing I'll always remember.
Being in this line of work, you've heard the phrase, you've probably used the phrase, athletics can be the front porch of the university. Just as an adjunct professor in your communication department, in my case, I've learned about how applications have gone through the roof. Like your enrollment, help me with the number, 18,000-ish?
Over 18,000,
I mean, help us understand, maybe you had a learning curve when you got here just to see which trends were going in which direction. But do you have a sense of how much athletics has had to do with that surge?
Absolutely. So, you know, you referenced the front porch, and I think a lot of people do use that, and our chancellor does as well. And it's a very real phrase. And I quickly tell people after that's, you know, said around me, I said, well, it's my job to make sure that the front porch is clean, it's painted, right? Everyone's welcome. And so, you know, we've got to be really, really good stewards of that and be intentional of that, because you're right. And typically with athletic success, the academic wave, if you will, is always like in the rears, right? It always comes, because again, to your point, there was maybe a sophomore in high school or a junior in high school that never heard of UNC Wilmington that watched us beat Kentucky on the SEC network, and they're Googling it, and all of a sudden, hey, mom or dad, that falls into the bucket of, I want to check it out. I want to go, you know, I can give you this stat that post UConn, this year's applications were up 72%. Year over year, right? And so that has to have a little bit of something to do with a national championship. And so, you know, we're not the most important component of the university. I'm the first one to acknowledge that, but we're the most visible in a lot of ways. And so we want to add as much value to everybody here on campus. And if we're more visible, then that's a positive for everybody.
Our guest is Mike Oblinger. He is the athletic director here at UNC Wilmington. We have 3 more guests coming your way. I'm going to hit you with a couple pieces of trivia. Rather than asking you if you know this trivia, which I would never put you on the spot that way.
Appreciate that.
As I hit you with a couple of things, feel free to either chime in on any of them, and then since we're about to transition to another guest, you just volunteer whatever is on your mind that you want to share with our statewide audience. You know a famous Kentucky basketball coach who once played basketball here, right? So that's John Calipari. Just some UNCW athletics trivia that I like. I watched Devontae Kaycock, you know, probably the most recent NBA player, I believe, from UNC Wilmington. As a little kid, I watched a guy named Carl Willis win the World Series. I didn't know at the time, but he was with the Minnesota Twins. I didn't know he was a UNC Wilmington Seahawk baseball player, which is super cool. But there are at least 2 that I can think of, current Major League Baseball players. One of them just signed a $4 million deal. representing the Seahawks in the current version of Major League Baseball as players. And then a guy named Josh Bonifay was the director of player development for the Texas Rangers as they just won
How about that?
the World Series. And he played baseball here in the late 1990s. That's why I didn't hit you with all this trivia.
But I didn't know there was a quiz today.
Like, that's a lot of cool, though. That's a lot of cool. I don't know how it translates out there, but it's just fun to be able to associate. Carl Willis is in, I believe, your UNCW Sports Hall of Fame, among other names that people would recognize, especially if they're my age. But right now, you have a cool coach in Takeo Siddle. Trezarian White is among my favorite players in the state to watch. So anyway, I hope to entertain or inform you with some of that stuff and our viewers and listeners. But what else comes to mind as we really thank you for your time and look forward to our next visit whenever that might come?
Yeah, we're here we are sold out, fourth sellout. The fan engagement has been a big component of what we've been focused on, and people are resonating and they're coming out, and Trask is special for a lot of reasons, and I cannot wait for tonight's ball game. So.
Mike Oblinger, UNC Wilmington Athletic Director. We will be right back with more, including the voice of the Seahawks, who also wears a hat as the Assistant Director of Seahawks Sports Marketing. That's Mike Vaccaro, our old friend. That's next here on the North Carolina Sports Network.
The oldest restaurant in New Hanover County has a brand new look, feel, and taste, making it the #1 place for great food in Wrightsville Beach. Owner Jimmy Galeese and his wife Keaton have poured their hearts and soul into the reformation of this North Carolina coastal classic restaurant, and the impact has been fantastic. King Neptune serves fresh fish, chicken, and steak, and has an amazing wine and spirits to lift your dining experience to make it the best at the beach. Come taste the creations of Chef Chavez, and you'll know that you have tasted a little bit of heaven right there in Wrightsville Beach. That's King Neptune. Call them at 910-239-3055 and make your reservation now. King Neptune in Wrightsville Beach, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
Welcome back here on the North Carolina Sports Network. We are back at Trask Coliseum. The backdrop for this visit to Wilmington and UNCW is the Campbell Camels visit to take on the Seahawks, who once again are one of the top teams in the Coastal Athletic Association. I haven't messed that up, in part because I know this man. He is the longtime voice of the Seahawks, celebrating his 20th year in that capacity. He also carries the title of the Assistant Director of Seahawks Sports Marketing. We're talking about our old friend, Mike Vaccaro. Mike, welcome back to the David Glenn Show. Good to see you again, and thanks for helping set up this wonderful visit to this awesome university by the sea.
Yeah, I know you love this place here, as so many people do, myself included, but great to have you guys here for a big game. It's always been a big rivalry for UNCW with Campbell University, and now it's a conference game. They'll play twice this season, later on this year, back in Bowie's Creek. So, it should be a fun night here inside Trask Coliseum, and great to have you guys here.
I'm going to bring you back to that Campbell angle in a minute, but in the broadest sense possible, you are a Pennsylvania native. Yeah. I love bragging about the fact that you are a product of Syracuse University, the greatest fountain of sports broadcasting talent on planet Earth, and this man is part of that tradition. With that backdrop in mind, those are two northern outposts. This is year 20 as the voice of the Seahawks. Your wife Bridget, your son Miles, your daughter Berkeley. Yeah. You have 20 years means you have truly put down roots and made this your home. Tell us, what about UNCW makes that happen, and what about southeastern North Carolina or the city of Wilmington makes that happen?
It's almost 30 years since I graduated from Syracuse in 1995, and just wanted to come down north, come down south from the north, and knowing that there's so many schools down here, this is what I wanted to do, is be the play-by-play voice of a school, and I knew there would be a lot of opportunities to do that. Actually spent 6 years at Campbell University before coming here, and partly why I came here is because from afar I saw UNCW going to NCAA tournaments, playing in all these exciting games. Their early years of going to the NCAA tournament, which was great, and then just wanted to get here, and so many great people here. You know, you're talking about what has kept me here. I mean, the people is a huge part of that, obviously. You know, you've been around this campus, you know it. You know, from athletics, from a campus standpoint, the people are great. And then the community is great. And living here at the coast, you know, I tell people, we live where people vacation. You know, what's better than that?
Amen.
You know, what's better than that? So, you know, I've never really looked to go elsewhere. I think if I did, I'd be thinking, what would I be doing in Wilmington right now? You know, what's UNCW doing right now? So I'm very happy with where I'm at. As you said, life caught up to me since I've been here, married and have a couple of kids. And yeah, I have no plans to leave this place. Just it's been so good to me, so good to my family, UNCW and Wilmington as well. It's a great place to be.
Your athletic director, Mike Oblinger, told us a little bit about something brand new, the Champions Circle, where if somebody out there donates a minimum of $25,000, I'm considering this, Mike, a minimum of $25,000 over a 5-year period or more, they would take that. You're a member of the Champions Circle, which is a very new innovation here. But you've been a part of other innovations. I've seen you interact with the students here at UNC Wilmington. You were part of coming up with Team Teal. I know that's not brand new anymore, but just tell us about that as you transition from your marketing hat sometimes to voice of the Seahawks and back and forth.
Yeah, when I started, I was had 2 jobs, you know, and now I'm kind of in-house here, and it's great. And I think the marketing hat plays along well with the broadcasting side of things as well. Different things that we're trying to push to the students, to the general fan population. We're able to communicate that with our broadcast and different things that we're doing. So just trying to get people involved in what we're doing. You know, and when you have winning programs as we have across the board, really, not just basketball. You know, we don't have football, so a lot of people look at the success of your program as basketball. But baseball's been great. I know you're going to talk with Randy Hood, our current baseball coach. Soccer programs have been great. There's so many good programs here and so many good coaches as well. Again, you go back to the people. I tell people it's just a great time right now to be involved with UNCW athletics. You know, there's so many good things happening. Mike Omlinger's kind of taken us to the next level, I think, and made some positive changes to enhance the fan experience, to enhance the student-athlete experience. So I think we're just a program on the rise right now, and I think you know, with the Champions Club and everything else that we have going on, it's only going to help us enhance our department even further. And you know, when you do that, your successes continue to grow as well. And fans want to be part of a winning program. They want to be part of a winning department, and we certainly are. Last year we won 5 conference championships, the most ever in school history. So you know, that's the bar now. That's where it's been set. And it's up to these current programs to try to get to that bar once again.
Coach Hood's team, for example, won both the regular season and the tournament title, which of course gets you to the big dance in the baseball sense. But you have, it does start with winning, right? It starts with winning, and you mentioned that. But you guys do other things. For example, you have the Wilmington Health Baby Race. Now I'm sure there are others. And by the way, for those who haven't seen Takeo Siddle's team, they're number 1 in offensive efficiency. Now, winning beats all, but fun, efficient offense is also attractive to fans, TV product, or in person here at Trask Coliseum. But just give us a sense of that broader way of attracting fans beyond winning, because who doesn't smile when they see babies crawling across the court?
Yeah, and we had Red Panda a couple of weeks ago, a doubleheader. We had twice the Red Panda.
The doubleheader.
Yes, and she didn't drop a bowl either time. So, yeah, I mean, you know that people are coming to the game. Some of them for the game itself. That's all they're worried about. But there's other people that want to come. They want to be entertained. So I think from a marketing standpoint, you've got to keep that in mind. You know, a timeout happens here at UNCW for basketball games. You're going to see 2-3 different things during the span of 2 minutes. And it's all meant to entertain. Obviously, it's to help out our sponsors who are giving the money for that as well. But it goes hand in hand. And I think you've got to do that these days. You've got to entertain, because there's so many other distractions, if you will, where people can spend their time, whether it's a concert, whether it's a show, whether it's out to dinner or whatever. What's going to bring them to UNCW beyond a basketball game? And that's kind of where the marketing side of things comes into play for us.
Mike Vaccaro is joining us here on the North Carolina Sports Network. UNCW's baseball coach, Randy Hood, is going to join us a little bit later. Remember, he has been a part of this program for 2+ decades at this point, and they have guys in the major leagues as we speak. They just had that double CAA title of a year ago. They're regular participants in the NCAA baseball championship. We'll have Coach Hood dropping by in just a little bit. you correct me if this number is wrong, because we just did visit with Mike Oblinger, and I think he said that y'all as a university, do I get to say we as an adjunct professor?
Sure.
We, thank you, Mike, we had 87 times the usual, website visits combined with social media because of the win at one of the most famous arenas in all of college sports, Rupp Arena, men's basketball, of course, beating the number 12 Kentucky Wildcats, coached by former UNC Wilmington athlete John Calipari. Yeah. You were there calling the action. How do you put into words, help me if I got any numbers wrong, supplement those numbers, but also in the community? I imagine if I ran into Mike Vaccaro at any point in the last couple months, one of the 5 things I am most likely to ask you or say has something to do with beating Kentucky at Kentucky.
Yes, without a doubt. Everywhere you went, I mean, people that even aren't really, UNCW fans or followers of the program, you couldn't miss it.
Yeah.
When that happened, and you're right, going to Rupp Arena, great environment, maybe the best environment that I've been in as far as a road environment. I mean, I'm trying to do the starting lineups on the broadcast, and there's fireworks going off in the building, so that kind of tells you about the environment there. And then to beat that program, as I said, a tie to John Calipari. I know he wasn't happy with that loss to UNCW, but yeah, a win like that, when you can get those kind of wins, certainly enhances what you're doing, and you see everything grow. That's why getting to the conference tournament, getting to the NCAA tournament is so big for these programs. And again, it is, athletics does become the front door of a university, because that's advertising that you can't afford to pay for.
Yeah.
Right? On an NCAA broadcast, when you're, a couple of years ago, we were the lone game at a 12-15 tip-off playing Duke. So for 30 minutes, we were the only game of that NCAA tournament. I mean, that is the pinnacle of what you want to do to help your athletic department, our level here at UNCW. So yeah, you beat a Kentucky on the road, highly ranked team, blue blood program. It definitely has some great benefits for your program, not just basketball, but I think your program and your university as a whole.
Mike Vaccaro, the voice of the Seahawks, is with us. You truly personify another little wrinkle about the current state of UNCW athletics, and that is, you briefly mentioned it earlier, you had those 6 years as the director of broadcasting for the Campbell Camels, who are here tonight at Trask Coliseum. We've established that winning is the starting point. Those other windows of exposure, good exposure is the best, but any exposure, even if you lose a high-profile game, doesn't hurt. Somewhere down the list, and you live in this marketing world, are rivalries. So help us understand, a couple of years ago, your only in-state rival as UNCW would have been Elon in conference. As we speak, North Carolina A&T has been added to that list, and the Campbell Camels have been added to that list. What is your sense of how that stuff matters and how it translates to maybe helping your job as the marketing guy?
I think it's huge, because now you probably have students at UNCW who have friends at Campbell, who have friends maybe at A&T, who have friends at Elon. So that's how you build that rivalry. It's with the fans, right? When you can get them talking about that rivalry and talking about those games and the results of those games, I think that's huge. So you add a Campbell University, who is one of the longest running rivalries for this basketball program, and a lot of programs here at UNCW, and now you add the element of conference. You add the element in the basketball side of playing them twice. You add the element on the baseball side of playing them in a 3-game series. It's huge. It's less than 2 hours from here, so it's really the closest school to us, probably Campbell and Coastal Carolina, who's in the Sun Belt Conference. So I think having Campbell in this conference, maybe more than the other ones, is the biggest plus for UNCW, and I think the fan bases as well. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to really grow this rivalry and take it to another level.
We mentioned earlier some of the things that have brought great positive attention to UNCW and also more specifically UNCW athletics. I know not all of this has happened during your 20 years with the Seahawks, but I have brought up things like Carl Willis, former UNCW baseball player. When I was a little kid, he was helping the Minnesota Twins win a World Series. And at the time, I didn't even know he was associated with UNC Wilmington, but now he is in your Athletics Hall of Fame here at UNCW. You called the games of Devontae Kaycock, the most recent example of a Seahawk in the NBA and now doing wonderful things overseas. John Calipari has that fun sort of trivial connection. But as this year's World Series was unfolding, Josh Bonifay, former UNCW Seahawks baseball player, was the director of player personnel or player development for the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series. How many more examples are there of that out there within athletics where, the Seahawks, and, in Devontae Cacoc's case, I mean, the octopus arms literally spread all over the world.
Yeah, for Cacock, he won an NBA championship playing for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Alongside LeBron James. But you're right. We have Evan Phillips, who's last year was kind of the closer for the Dodgers. Ryan Jeffers, a starting catcher for the Minnesota Twins. Soccer side, Sydney Schneider, goalkeeper on the women's soccer side. She's been in the Olympics a number of times playing for Team Jamaica. She had ties to be on that team, and she's, again, gotten UNCW on a national stage, an international stage with World Cup playing for Team Jamaica. So, yeah, UNCW athletics is bigger and broader than some people think. Because you start as a junior college, you've only been here since 1947, which is relatively young when you look at the rest of the state and some institutions around the state. But there's been great talent that has come through here in a lot of sports, and just you get a lot of notoriety when good things happen for them, and they're good people as well, and everybody knows them. Devontae Cacock, his jersey is retired here now, and people still talk about him and the impact he had. And this was a guy that could have left here after a couple of years. His coach left, he decided to stay, and he became one of the all-time greats, and again, one of the few guys that have his jersey retired here. So, yeah, I've been fortunate to see some of the greats come through here. As you said, I'm not quite as old as I've been here when Carl Willis was here, but Carl is another guy that's always around the program, and you hear that name a lot. Josh Bonifay as well, who's probably going to be a GM somewhere at some point. He's such a bright guy. Knew he was going to play baseball professionally, but his dad, who was a GM, he's kind of going that route and had great success, as I said, winning a World Series championship with the Rangers.
His name is Mike Vaccaro. He is on duty as the Seahawks are hosting the Campbell Camels here shortly at Trask Coliseum. Thank you for being a guest in my classes here at UNC Wilmington. Thank you for being a guest here on the North Carolina Sports Network today. And thanks for just making all of this work.
Yeah.
Because you, as the man in front of the camera often or behind the mic often, know that when that stuff goes wrong, doesn't matter how good or bad we are. So
that's right.
Thank you for both helping me in front of the camera, but also doing all that behind the scenes stuff. It's great to see you.
Well, it's great to see you. Great to have Mike Waddell here as well. We go back a long ways, but we appreciate you being here, and go Hawks.
Thank you. That's Mike Vaccaro, voice of the Seahawks. On the other side, UNC Wilmington's baseball coach Randy Hood. The Seahawks were the regular season and tournament champions of the CAA a year ago. And among last year's regional teams who will be visiting specifically UNCW's Brooks Field this year, and I'm leaving some out, but Carolina will be here. East Carolina will be here. Coastal Carolina will be here. NC State will be here. The Campbell Camels that Mike mentioned will be here. And of course, the Seahawks have a whole bunch of fun games to watch on the road as well. And some beyond those regional opponents also will be visiting Brooks Field, not too far from where we're sitting right now. We'll get into more of those details with the coach himself, Randy Hood, next on the North Carolina Sports Network.
The original Saltworks has been serving the Wilmington area for over 50 years. Owner Bob Hubbard and his staff create a welcome atmosphere to go along with their home-cooked breakfast and lunch that simply cannot be rivaled anywhere in North Carolina. Eggs, waffles, hot dogs, crab cakes, and the best grits in the state. The original Saltworks, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to Trask Coliseum here on the North Carolina Sports Network. We appreciate the athletic director, Mike Oblinger, and the voice of the Seahawks, Mike Vaccaro, for dropping by. We promised the baseball coach, and next to me now is Coach Randy Hood. Let me brag about him briefly. Campbell is the basketball opponent tonight, and Coach Hood has truly worn both the Seahawks colors and the Camels colors. He led the league as a senior in hitting and set a record for stolen bases. And in the end, during his career with the Campbell Camels, the enemy now, he actually set 13 school records. I don't know how many he still holds, but I've known him more as a manager that I admire and a coach that I admire and a recruiter that I admire. He also happened to be a minor league baseball teammate with Michael Jordan. Yes, that Michael Jordan at one point. I have visited him in the baseball offices here at UNCW in the past. It is great to see you in person again, Coach. Welcome back to the David Glenn Show. How are you?
Great, DG. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Now tell me, I imagine you can still do a lot, throwing the baseball, hitting the baseball, maybe not running, stolen bases quite as much, but what do you remember most fondly when you were wearing the uniform in a different sense than when you put on the teal colors these days?
I mean, the true athletes, we always still think we can do it and want to. Honestly, if we had that chance, I think we would never give that part of it up. But no, just the feeling of being able to go out there and change the game on the field versus now where I can make some decisions but not always have the true ability to make things actually change. But miss those days, but I'm really, it's been a long time since that part of my game has been there. But I've enjoyed the coaching side of it a whole lot. I've enjoyed, spent 6 years at Campbell out of pro baseball before I came here, but the majority of my coaching career has been here at UNC Wilmington. And I have a lot of fond memories at Campbell, and that's my alma mater. But I've been a Seahawk for 23 straight years, and so this is where I, right now, really think a lot of and want to continue to help build.
Well, 23 years is a long time. And for those who don't know, a couple of guys that Coach Hood helped mentor, Evan Phillips had 24 saves last year with the LA Dodgers. And I don't even know if you saw this because it's relatively recent news. He just signed or got in arbitration, I think, a $4 million deal with the Dodgers. Former catcher here, Ryan Jeffers. I read that he was originally a walk-on with the Seahawks.
Yeah,
is that true?
Yeah, Raleigh native.
Sanderson High School in
Sanderson
Raleigh.
High School. He
walks on with the Seahawks?
Walked on here his first year, and then basically just his next 2 years got better and better. Beat out an All-American, Nick Fight, who led the country in RBIs his sophomore year, and just as a junior was drafted in the second round and got to the big leagues real quick, and like you said, just signed a really good, nice deal.
And in Jeffers' case, 4 seasons with the Minnesota Twins after his time at UNCW, and then, of course, working his way up through the minor league baseball ranks. I have to ask you the Michael Jordan question. UNCW fans have heard versions of this story before, but as you were a professional baseball player, part of that time was the Birmingham Barons.
Right.
Michael Jordan, in his famous detour from the NBA, was a minor league baseball player. You guys were teammates. What can you share?
I could write a lot. I could write a book, but no, that '94 season was just something that you would have never even dreamed of happening as a minor league baseball player. I was one of the 25 to 35 guys that actually got to experience being on that team, so it was quite a unique experience to have arguably the most popular athlete in the world at that time on your team playing a sport that he had just won 3 world titles in basketball with the Chicago Bulls, and now he's playing minor league baseball. So just all the fanfare and all the stuff that just comes with Michael Jordan at that time of his career was amazing. Learned a lot, did I lose a few at bats? I probably did, but I wasn't a prospect at that time, and I look back now, and I was very fortunate to be a part of that situation. Still have ways of potentially having a relationship with Michael, and it's just been something that I can always look back, think of different things. I still have odds and ends like a pair of shoes, some golf clubs that he ended up giving me. So those are neat items that people really don't know a lot about, but they're really fun things that I've been able to keep and have kind of just for my memories.
And oh, by the way, before Coach Hood was teammates with Michael Jordan in baseball, Michael Jordan, of course, famously was a product of Laney High School right here in Wilmington, North Carolina. One more reason that I love this place. Congratulations on last year's regular season CAA title and tournament title and NCAA baseball championship bid, of course. In the bigger picture, I know it won't happen until the end of this ongoing season, but tell us what's happening. I love your ballpark. Like, yeah. I think I've shared with you, I was a baseball player from 5 years old. I even pitched into my 20s, but not for my university. I wasn't good enough. I was a left-handed pitcher, so they kept inviting me back. Because if you can get it over the plate as a lefty in a beer league, they're going to invite you back every year. So I would not have the perspective of how UNCW's baseball facilities compare to others. When I see them, I love them.
You're right.
But when I heard about Mike Oblinger talking about the big plan, just tell us what went into that. The dugouts are going to change, the turf is going to change, the outfield wall is going to change. And I guess you just have one more selling point beyond winning and having a university at the coast and your track record over 20 plus years now, counting your time as an assistant coach.
No, it's, Brooksville was built, the field itself was built back in the 70s.
Okay.
So over the course of the years, there's not been a ton of what I would call upgrades or improvements to the field itself. The stadium, a concrete structure, was built in the 70s as well, but just over the years and the way things have kind of changed with fields, whether it be in natural surfaces or artificial surfaces, it's changed a lot. You also have to have people to work on those facilities and to maintain them. And just at this point in our career, as far as our university, we've made a decision that we're going to upgrade Brooks Field, which needs it, and we're going to do it with a different surface than what we're all used to. But it's not different to what's happening around the country with a lot of college surfaces and things like that. So getting a new field itself, getting more improved, what I would call more updated dugouts, improving our outfield fence, and changing the dimensions a little bit, and then hopefully phase 2, phase 3, which is some more improvements to the stadium over the next 2 to 3 years, will just hopefully allow us to stay up where we're at from a national standpoint, being one of the top mid-major programs in the country.
Well, with that in mind, and that's not an exaggeration, one of the top mid-major programs in the country. Correct me if I get these numbers wrong, but you've been here, counting an assistant coach, more than 20 years. I believe all 11 of the Seahawks trips to the NCAA baseball championship have been with you as part of the staff.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have been the assistant for a lot of those, and then the head coach this past year. So, it's been a great ride, and we've had a lot of good players. Coach Scaff hired me here, and he had a great career here as well as a head coach. But it's just been a great run over the last 2 decades, and I just want to keep getting us to an even higher level that I think our program can get to.
Well, you may not even know all these details, but in addition to being the CAA champions and having those renovations to look forward to, we have this new enterprise called the North Carolina Sports Network, and we're actually coming to your alma mater's visit to UNCW. So in early May, we're bringing our title sponsor coach is the North Carolina Pork Council. So if you'd like to volunteer your favorite pork product, I imagine Eastern style barbecue is somewhere on that list. Maybe you like bacon like I had for
I'm
breakfast.
making a plug here, but my favorite barbecue place here in town is Moe's Original Barbecue.
Cool.
I know it might be a chain, but they have, outside of their barbecue, the wings are the best around.
Plugs are welcome.
Big time wings.
Especially because they contribute to the North Carolina Pork Council.
Okay.
So that's good business for us. But I have been to your home games. I love the environment. Yeah. I don't know. This is a school with 19 varsity sports, so there's a lot of different reasons to be excited about the Seahawks. But just give us a sense of, what do you consider the Seahawk brand of baseball? Because when Brooks Field gets jumping, it's awesome. And you guys aren't the only game in town, but in southeastern North Carolina, man, to me, your baseball games are as good as it gets.
No, we have a great environment. We have great fans that come out for all the games. Doesn't matter what the weather. You know, in college baseball, it starts in 2 weeks, so we could have some 30-degree weather.
Yep.
We could have 60-degree weather. We hope for more 60 and higher than 30, but day in and day out, we average anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 fans. It just depends on sometimes who we're playing and things like that. But in college baseball, that's a good crowds. I would describe our brand as we're very blue collar. We bring our lunch pail to work every day. We want to work hard and do our best to not only win baseball games, but put out a good product day in and day out for the fans and the people here and the university, and represent Wilmington and southeastern North Carolina as best as we can. And you know, it's just it's a fun, like you said, environment. And when Brooksfield gets rocking with 2,000 plus, it's a neat atmosphere there.
For those who don't know, we'll give more details between now and early May here on the North Carolina Sports Network. But we're literally we're bringing a pig to your games,
Okay,
Coach.
awesome.
We're gonna feed 100 people and then watch the Seahawks play Coach's alma mater, the Campbell Camels, in the baseball game. That's May 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Those two teams will be getting together. We'll be there for the opener of that series with all of our crew here at the North Carolina Sports Network. Evan Phillips, pitcher in Major League Baseball. Ryan Jeffers, catcher in Major League Baseball. I dug out this number. It may be slightly outdated, but I have more than 80 former UNCW baseball players have been selected in baseball's amateur draft.
Yeah, I think it's actually between free agents and people that's actually been drafted, it's over 100.
Wow.
But you know, we've had 13 guys to reach the major leagues, and you know, we've currently got, you know, I think around 8 or 9 that are in the minor leagues. You mentioned Evan and Ryan that are in the big leagues. I think we've got a couple that are knocking on the door right now that I know Landon Root, who just graduated here a few years ago from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. He got invited to big league camp with the Giants. Greg Jones, who was a first-round draft pick in 2019 out of Cary, North Carolina, is knocking on the door with the Rays. He was in AAA with the Bulls a lot this past year.
Nice.
So we've got 2 or 3 guys that I'm hoping this coming season will be the 14th, 15th, 16 guys to get us to the big leagues. So it's neat that you know, we're able to see those guys reach the highest level of baseball in the country. But it just speaks about the talent, the type of program that you've mentioned, that year in and year out we're able to have some really good baseball players.
We're with UNCW baseball coach Randy Hood here, and if you broaden the conversation slightly beyond what you just mentioned, which is the current state of Major League Baseball, the Cleveland Guardians pitching coach is Carl Willis, who's in the UNCW Sports Hall of Fame, legendary pitcher for the Seahawks. I guess that would have been a little bit before your time.
Yeah.
But also Josh Bonifay, you overlapped with him briefly maybe, or almost. He was the end of the 90s?
Close, yeah.
He was an executive or
with the Rangers,
a player development guy with the Texas Rangers, who just won the World Series.
Yeah, he's responsible for their whole minor league system and the player development and what goes on. So everything that they're doing to get to the big leagues, he's in charge of that. So it was huge to see the Rangers win, and he's a big part of their World Series.
As we let you go, what is your message to both Seahawks Nation, who is familiar with your baseball program, but also maybe a broader audience? A lot of our viewers and listeners are in Eastern North Carolina, as I know your workouts have already begun, but the games are almost here.
Yeah, we're literally yesterday, Friday, was 2 weeks away from opening season.
Okay.
We got Kent State here opening weekend. Our league's going to be as tough as it's ever been. Currently, Northeastern's getting a lot of top 25 attention. Campbell, who's now in our league, has been perennially the last 5 years a top 25 team. Our club's going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league. It's pretty special. Last year our league was ranked the 7th overall RPI league in the whole country out of 31 divisions.
And you're a multi-bid league.
Multi-bid league, and I think with Campbell coming in, we got a chance to potentially right now, I mean, D1 baseball covers college baseball as good as anybody. They just came out a week or so ago and said they wouldn't be surprised that over the course of the year, Northeastern, Wilmington, Campbell could all be top 25 teams. And then there's several other teams that are really good in our league as well. So it's going to be a dogfight, and I'm looking forward to it.
And oh, by the way, let me squeeze one more thing in. I'm only here part-time, but if I were here full-time, I don't know your whole schedule off the top of my head, but one of the cool things about baseball, and I don't know how you do this scheduling-wise, you as a broader sports fan know that sometimes the school from the bigger conference won't come to your place.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, coaches they just hate on that in football and sometimes men's basketball. Coach Siddle will talk about it sometimes. He's like, I can't get teams to play us here.
Yeah.
I know in your case, Carolina's coming here.
Yeah, home and home with Carolina.
State's coming here.
Home and home ECU.
Coastal.
Coastal. We play Wake Forest at the AAA ballpark in Durham.
Cool.
Boston College plays a midweek game here. Liberty plays a midweek game here.
That's awesome.
We go and have a 3-game weekend at Charlotte, which is a very strong program.
Yep.
So, we don't dodge anyone and no one dodges us.
That's cool.
That's the great thing about college baseball. You get to play great teams every game.
I'm glad you put it that way because that is different about college baseball.
Yeah.
You do not get the willingness to do the home and home the way you just outlined with the Pack, the Pirates, the Eels, the Chanticleers, the Camels. Obviously, you guys are continuing that tradition just in the conference form instead of non-conference rivals. So that'll be fun, especially for you. I don't know if you'll be emotional when that weekend arrives. Maybe you're over that by now.
I don't get any emotions like that anymore. I just want to beat them very bad and then hopefully go shake Coach Hare's hand after the end and wish him well.
His name is Randy Hood. He leads one of the best mid-major baseball programs in the country here at UNC Wilmington. Thanks for stopping by, Coach. Appreciate your warmth and hospitality and, of course, your baseball knowledge. We always have fun seeing you. So good luck this season. We'll be there feeding your fans on May 3rd.
Sounds
but
fun.
I'm sure I'll see you between now and then. Thanks for stopping by.
Appreciate it, DG.
You got it.
Yes,
Good to
sir.
see you, Coach.
Thank you. Yep.
On the other side, we will shift gears. Switch sports is what I was trying to say. From baseball to women's basketball, Nicole Woods will join us next on the North Carolina Sports Network. Hey folks, David Glenn here for Organize for Success. I am a better person and a more effective business owner for having known and learned from Emily Parks over many years now. Emily's company, Organize for Success, helps multi-passionate business owners and executives bring harmony to all the layers of their lives, from work to side projects, from friends and family to hobbies, community, and beyond. With Emily's help, you too can make every minute matter. She helps you determine what earns your time and how to efficiently accomplish what matters. One of the many things I love about Emily is that she doesn't impose her will on her clients. She listens to them. That way she can better help them cultivate the lives they want to live. You can set up a complimentary call with Emily today by visiting organizeforsuccess.com. That's organize, F-O-R, success.com. Welcome back to the North Carolina Sports Network. Our fourth and final guest, last but not least, is the women's basketball coach, Nicole Woods. She, like Mike Oblinger, is relatively new to UNCW, but they come to UNCW with really impressive track records. Nicole is a native of Gastonia, North Carolina, and she was so good as a player that she's already been inducted into a Sports Hall of Fame, the Gaston County Sports Hall of Fame. That happened a little less than 2 years ago. So I say hello for the first time to the Hall of Famer, Nicole Woods. Coach, welcome to the North Carolina Sports Network. How are you?
I'm better than excellent. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I love coming to this city. I got married here a long time ago.
Really?
Behind the Blockade Runner Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
I got engaged at the Front Street Inn in Wilmington,
Wow.
and I'm still married 25 years later.
Man.
And I told you earlier, I love teaching here. I
Right.
love, you get to coach them up, I get to teach them up.
Right.
Tell us why UNCW was the right fit for you to transition from brilliant recruiter, well-known assistant coach for the Charlotte 49ers, among others, to turning your eyes eastward a little bit and becoming that head coach for the first time?
Well, it was important for me. Fit is very important for me, and I believe you're only as good as the players around you and the people around you. And when I had my first conversation with Mike Oblinger and Tiffany Tucker, I got the feeling that they get it. You know, they get it. They support women's basketball. Mike coming from UConn, where women's basketball is just a small deal.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we've heard of them.
and then coming here, you know, coming from UNC Charlotte, you know, in Charlotte, there's so many different things that pull your attention, from the Panthers to the Hornets. The list goes on. And when I looked at it here, I said, man, this is a gold mine. You know, I love the beach. I'm a beach girl. And having the opportunity to be here, no football and no other, you know, professional sports teams, I just felt like it was just a gold mine.
It's funny, you mentioned Tiffany. So I shared with you that I'm an adjunct professor here in the Department of Communication, and I bring in a lot of guest speakers.
Okay.
Tiffany came as a guest speaker, and man,
she's amazing.
She impressed you, and during the hiring process, my doors were blown off. Mm-hmm. She is a powerhouse of a person.
Absolutely.
And one more reason, as you said, that you loved UNCW. We want to get to know you a little bit better as a person.
Okay.
And I circled a quote that I believe you shared maybe in the release that announced your hiring.
Okay.
Helping people is my calling in life.
Absolutely.
Now, I can envision how you apply that in your day-to-day life, but I'd rather hear it for our statewide audience in your words.
Yeah, you know, I've always been like that. You know, I think it's my upbringing. You know, I'm the oldest of 3 girls, and my job was to make sure my sisters were okay, always. It didn't matter. Even now, they joke and they say nobody's good enough for them, and they're right. But that's just always been my nature. You know, my parents, my dad's a minister, my grandfather's a minister. I grew up in the church. I grew up in the Boys and Girls Club. So everything centered around me was servanthood in some capacity. And I was taught earlier, it's better to give than to receive. And one of our core values is philanthropy in my program. And it's just who I am. It's who I am. And I believe that if I can teach these young folks to get out of their phones long enough to think about something other than that in themselves, then that kind of opens their mind a little bit to be better people in this world.
Nicole Woods is joining us here on the David Glenn Show and the North Carolina Sports Network. When I share this with you, Coach, your reaction is supposed to be, you look way too young for that. So just keep that in mind.
All right, got it.
So as a young man, I interviewed Dean Smith of UNC, Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, and the late Jim Valvano. When I was a young man, they were the 3 coaches in the Triangle where I was living at the time. I bring that up because you being in year 1 at UNCW, a lot of folks don't realize they know the Mike Krzyzewski that won 5 titles and is in the Hall of Fame. They know the Dean Smith that won multiple titles is in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Those guys did not win at the high level right away.
No.
Famously, there were people calling for Mike Krzyzewski's job.
That's right.
Like in the mid-'80s.
Yep.
I just bring that up because you have helped build programs. I believe you were at Charlotte for a decade, right?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
There is no magic wand that I'm aware of, right?
No.
But give us an idea. You have this effervescence about you, which I imagine helps through a roller coaster. But tell us about the growing process and what in year 1 are you trying to accomplish, even beyond, of course, you want to win games.
Right. The biggest thing for me is the culture. You know, building it. I believe it's the foundation for anything, and that's what I've really focused on. You know, doing this first year. I tell my players all the time that I treat them for who they are, not what they do. And you know, as coaches, sometimes you should have rotated over on defense. But I'm consistent about that because I care about them as people first and foremost. And I learned early on in my coaching career that players don't care how much you know until they know that you care. And so that's what this whole year has been about, and us, you know, working to get 1% better every single day. We have a fairly young roster and a lot of freshmen that play a lot of minutes. And I tell them, I don't expect you to be perfect, but I expect you to give a perfect effort.
I'm not sure I'm getting this number right, so you can correct me, but the last I saw, 8 of your 11 scholarship players were either freshmen or sophomores?
You see these streaks in my hair? You're right. You don't look young, old enough to have interviewed those folks.
I don't see, no.
See, they hide real well straight on, but if you look from the backside,
You know, you got to do, Coach, hang out with me more.
I'm telling
Because
you.
then you look like you have the darker hair, at least compared to this.
Right.
People celebrate you not only as a human being, but as a recruiter. What can you share about what does it take to be a great recruiter? Because that's what those who were your head coach and hired you to be on their staffs said about you. And obviously, as a first-year Seahawks head coach, your future success is going to be tied directly to how good of a recruiter you are here in Wilmington.
Absolutely. Well, I like to say relationships are my superpower, and they definitely are. And that's what recruiting really is, building relationships over years. And it's not so much about, you know, them helping you right now. But I've been to Hoggard High School, and I've been to New Hanover, and they might or might not have players for me now.
Right.
But they remember when they do have players that I showed up when they didn't have anybody for me. And so I've done that my entire career, build genuine relationships with players, with parents, with coaches. And, at the end of the day, people want to know that their young girl, their young player is going to be taken care of whenever they leave their house. And so I just try my best to connect with people, be who I am, and they know they're going to leave here being better people, not just better basketball players.
Your athletic director, Mike Oblinger, the guy who hired you, y'all are two of the newer faces around these parts.
Right.
He mentioned a number, Coach, that when the men's basketball team went to Kentucky in the world-famous Rupp Arena and beat the number 12 ranked Wildcats on national TV, there was something like 87 times the website visits, social media impressions, not just for men's basketball, but for UNCW more broadly.
Correct.
Do you, as a head coach and recruiter, do you feel that in the conversations you have with moms and dads and young women?
Absolutely. I actually did my senior thesis in college on why players should be paid back then. But athletics is the front porch to the university.
Yes.
It really is, and I always say anytime we can get our name out there, in a positive way especially, it's a good thing. You want people to talk about UNC Wilmington, UNCW, and that win, man, people are still talking about it. I'm in the airport, and that's who beat Kentucky, and that's who made them change their court. I get it all of the time, and that's great for us.
I wear a UNCW t-shirt to the gym where I live in Raleigh, and if there's 3 different things that I most frequently get when somebody notices the t-shirt, it's the Kentucky.
Yep.
That's one of the 3. Being at the beach is another one, and that actually leads me to my next question. So I shared with you when I married my wife Maria 25 years ago, even though we lived in the Triangle, we chose behind the blockade runner, looking at the Atlantic Ocean. I can still picture it all these years later.
Right.
And one of the reasons we chose that, we're not recruiters the way you're a recruiter, but Maria's relatives are New York, my relatives are Pennsylvania. And our idea was, if we're going to ask 100 people to travel all the way down here to see us get married, we're going to show this southeastern North Carolina. Tell me, as a head coach of UNCW women's basketball, how much does place and campus and Atlantic Ocean factor in? I know young people want to play for you, but there's multiple puzzle pieces to all that, right?
Oh, it matters. Absolutely, it matters. And we've got a young lady coming from Kentucky, and she was excited about us being 10 to 12 minutes away from the beach. And when you're a beach girl and you like that, and I talked to them about how when my players have breaks during class, sometimes they'll go out there because the UV ray is this today, and they just can't believe that, And so it's about painting the picture. And they have to see themselves in that picture. And whatever it looks like for them, that's what you need to paint for them. And you're a great recruiter if you did that, getting your in-laws and your folks down, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I'd say it's a hidden gem here in North Carolina.
Coach, if you saw my wife, you'd really know that I outkicked my coverage, and that is the essence of recruiting. There's no doubt about that. One last thing for you. Coach Siddle surprised me. He joined me a while back on the David Glenn Show, And he mentioned how it's so funny that you call yourself a beach girl because if you were too much of a beach girl, there's no way you become the collegiate All-American player that you became, right? And he said that at some point, maybe when he was an assistant, he viewed it as a balancing act.
Yeah.
It's okay that my recruit loves the beach, but they can't love it too much.
Too much. That's correct.
How do you pulled it off the right way? So
Yeah.
what's your message to your players?
Well, there's one key factor there. They have to be gym rats.
Yes.
Because see, if they're not gym rats, then like you said, they're going to be at the beach all of the time. The gym rats will be in the gym before they go or after they go to the beach, one of the other. So that's one key component that they definitely have to have.
Coach, would you be a minister if you were not a basketball coach? You got a little pizzazz to you now.
Listen, I'm not even speaking that. You know, it's too many lines of preachers in my house, in my family. You know, I'm just gonna say I just speak the truth from my chair as head coach. Thank you, Lord. I'll let my granddaddy and my father handle that.
Her name is Nicole Woods. She is the UNC Wilmington women's basketball coach. Great to meet you, and thank you for your time today on the David Glenn Show.
Thank you so much.
You got it. She was a college All-American. She is in her first season with the Seahawks. Come watch her team play and come watch it grow. Thanks to you for being with us. And don't forget, we at the North Carolina Sports Network will be back here at UNCW on May 3rd as Coach Hood's baseball team takes on his own alma mater, the Campbell Camels. We're going to feed a bunch of fans thanks to our friends at the North Carolina Pork Council. You're allowed to drop by, Coach. It's
All
May
right.
3rd.
May 3rd. Got it.
If you like pork,
I like pork.
little pulled pork sandwiches.
All right.
Coach Woods might join us. You're all invited as well to Brooks Field. And we thank you for joining us on this wonderful visit to UNC Wilmington here on the North Carolina Sports Network.